Point. Counterpoint. Let's play some Bach. So how did he do it? What kind of gigantic, multi-folded chess club debate brain did Bach have inside of his skull that enabled him to write what should have taken 3 lifetimes of music to write? Bach did it in roughly 55 years. How? How did he create such amazing melodies in his head and all of these harmonies? It seems to be superhuman. Well, Bach was certainly extraordinary, but he was still a human. He put his powdered wig on just like everybody else. Bach wasn't so much an artist as he was an artisan. He had to create. It wasn't him creating, it was him producing. He had to produce music. And you produce and produce and produce, and eventually you get pretty good at producing. Bach used the tools of the trade just like a carpenter or a seamstress. He learned other tricks from other composers, from teachers, and after building 700 houses, you're going to be a pretty good house builder. And that's the story of Bach. He was great to begin with, but then he had to produce so much music that he got even greater. That's how he did it. And you're saying, Jim, you're oversimplifying. Am I? I'm going to show you how. Hi. I'm in the reflection. Isn't technology grand what you can do with your phone and some wood clamps? So, one of Bach's primary compositional techniques was something called invertible counterpoint. Now, just a quick review or explanation. Counterpoint, just like in language, is another point of view, something that goes along with an initial point of view. It could be dissenting, agreeable, or disagreeable, but it's just another idea. And in music, sometimes we have 2, 3, 4 different voices all offering points and counterpoints. So, I have taken a very complicated melody from the public domain. It goes like this. Now, I have added to it my own counterpoint. If you look at the second line, you'll see the melody right there, and below it is my counterpoint. All right. That honestly took me about an hour to get that as smooth and as possible, and to make the counter melody really fit nice and well with the original melody. But once I've done that, I have done the bulk of the work, because now I can do all sorts of tricks just by cutting and pasting. And yes, they cut and paste in the old days too. They just had to do it by hand. I have now put this third line here. I've taken the melody and put it down on the bottom, whereas it was on the top up here. And I've taken the counter melody and I have put it on top, whereas it was on the bottom. And together now, those 2 parts sound like this. Also, I changed the key. But the fun doesn't end there. I can take it, change the key again, put it into a minor tonality, and now it sounds like this, kind of sad. What happened to Mary's lamb? I can take that same idea and I can add to it a third voice. And this third voice is really pretty simple, just basic quarter notes, just filling out the harmony. Now all three parts sounds like this. So I'm going to take some of those ideas, cut and paste them, put them into a few different scenarios. I'm also going to use a little connective tissue for my episodes, or what I like to call canoodling. Remember that? So I asked Pastor Bill for another sheep song, and he said, how about Baa Baa Black Sheep? So here is Baa Baa Black Sheep. I'm going to use that melody for my episodes. Also, one last trick I'm going to use is something called sequencing. And a sequence is just a little morsel of music that you can transpose around into different keys. You all know one. Probably the most famous sequence is this. You know, you could just keep going. So on. That's called a sequence, and that's another trick that composers use to move from key to key without just picking up and jumping. They use those sequences to make it sound smoother. So now, here is the world premiere of a piece I call Fugue de Agnus Maria. In other words, Fugue on Mary Had a Little Lamb. Sometimes it can get away from a composer. like it did here, and kind of like you're going to hear today in Bach's G major. It's too much. It just goes on and on and on, and he cuts and pastes a little too much to the point where we get diminishing returns, at least in my opinion. Here now, after a whole bunch of talk, is the Prelude and Fugue in G major of J.S. Bach from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1. Still have 2 more pages of this.
finish.